Wearing wet shoes is the bane of my existence. If I'm ever in a situation where my shoes and or socks get wet and I can't immediately change out of them, it completely ruins my day.
Watch out for that first step, it's a doozy!
And I feel like most people agree with me on this, which is why I can't comprehend why some psychopath thought it would be a good idea to make one of the main challenges of their sport be jumping in a small puddle. Steeplechase is a 300-meter Olympic race that involves jumping over hurdles and running through puddles before crossing the finish line. It originates from England, where runners would often challenge each other from one town's church steeple to another. These races would often involve running through town creeks and jumping over fences in order to get to the finish line the fastest. This eventually led to what the sport is today, where these fixed obstacles are put on an Olympic track. I always thought that this was a ridiculously silly sport because I felt like there's no need to put those puddles in. I've been a long-time steeplechase hater, and recently I'm trying to get in the mindset of don't knock it until you try it. Because usually I hold really strong opinions that are based on nothing, and I'm trying to change that mentality because I feel like it's not the best to be so judgmental. So this week, with the goal of trying to find an ounce of respect for this sport, I'm going to be training like an Olympic steeplechaser. Steeplechase person who steeplechases. Is there steeplechase runner. Steeplechase runner? I'm going to try to train like a steeplechase runner. So while I'm not directly trying out an Olympic steeplechase runner's training plan, I will be trying what I feel like is the first step of becoming a steeplechase runner, which is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable feeling of wet shoes and socks while running. So this morning we're going to be doing some steeplechase training, and I feel like the best way to get started would be getting them dogs wet.
One feels like a duck splashing around in all this wet.
And I immediately hate how this feels. I feel like I'm gonna get trench foot or at least athlete's foot. This is not comfortable at all. So I just read that the hurdles in steeplechase are only like 3 feet tall. I'm going to Lake Michigan to hopefully get more of an experience of running through water. So I'm thinking there might be some stuff to jump over near the beach over there. Only 3 feet? Like why? If you're gonna have obstacles, why not just make them harder? Make it more challenging, make it more interesting to watch. 3 feet hurdles and 2 feet puddles of water, I don't understand it. Anyways, I'm gonna try it out and see if I change my mind. I do think this sport may have been promoted back in England by podiatrists, just trying to get more clients treating athlete's foot, because this is just not, I don't know, it's just not a comfortable thing to do. I'm sure steeplechase runners have athlete's foot often. If you're training for this every day, getting your feet wet and just not drying them off, leaving them in like a wet environment for bacteria to grow, I'm sure that's an issue they run into. I can't imagine that our feet don't itch. All right, so I made it to the lake where I'm gonna be trying to just practice running in water, I guess. But if you look behind me, there's actually a little barrier that looks to be about 3 feet tall. So I guess I'm gonna just simulate what it's like to be in steeplechase by running around in the water, then jumping over that hurdle, then going back in the water, just so I could give a proper review of what I think of the steeplechase and whether or not I should give it any respect. I'm an athlete. Let's give it a second go. Yep. Whoa, look at that video work. White man can jump. Yep. Okay, so I had a little fun.
And when one feels like a duck, one is happy.
But that doesn't change my opinion that I think this is a silly sport. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could have fun doing anything. I'm very easily entertained, but I still hold very strong opinions. One quick side note, if you ever get to try out steeplechase, I would recommend getting a nice pair of socks. I'm wearing Bombas running socks, and I feel like that really helped not get just a shit ton of blisters on my feet while running in and out of the water. So yeah, that's just a quick tip for that. My immediate thoughts would be that they just gotta make this sport harder. It's only 3,000 meters. The jumping part, it wasn't that hard. The running through the water wasn't that hard. It's just kind of like a minor inconvenience. I feel like the most difficult thing I had to do while like jumping that hurdle and running through the water would just get the correct footing on the sand. So that's not even part of the sport, and that was the hardest part for me. I think it could be a lot more fun if you add more difficult obstacles and just more entertaining to watch. Definitely think that this is a sport pushed by podiatrists to try to get more clients for Athlete's Foot or Big Pharma, either one of them.
Ask about getting this season's COVID-19 shot.
So after trying out different aspects of the sport, I still don't get the appeal of steeplechase. Running through 2 feet of water is a little bit harder than I initially thought, but you'd only be running through that for a couple of seconds, so it doesn't add that much of a challenge. And jumping over the barriers is no different than jumping over a hurdle. I am glad to have at least tried out some aspects of the sport so I could take the time to properly shit on it. It's just an extremely silly sport. And don't get me wrong, winning an Olympic medal in any sport is an incredible accomplishment, but I couldn't imagine purposefully getting your shoes wet as an obstacle without getting an Olympic medal. Well, I mean, I guess I just did that, but I feel like that's different. I'm just trying to prove a point here. I did this to prove a point. I guess I just did that. I purposely got my shoes wet without like winning anything. I don't get anything out of that. Just a stupid video, but I did it to prove a point so that my opinions aren't baseless anymore. I feel like to make the sport more interesting, you would need to add obstacles that are more similar to what you would see in a mud run. In a mud run, you would see more of the course in water, taller hurdles, and more difficult obstacles, like climbing a cargo net, crawling under barbed wire, and getting hit by live electrical wires. I want to see more of a challenge that someone would be proud bearing through, rather than just running through a puddle, which is honestly an inconvenience that someone might come across in their everyday life. I feel like that would make the sport more fulfilling for the athlete and more enjoyable to watch. So that was my attempt of taking the first steps of training like an Olympic steeplechase runner. If you disagree with anything that I said in this video, please feel free to leave a comment so that I could tell you that you're wrong. And I hope you enjoy this video.